Okay, today you guys, we're going to have two different assignments. I'm going to do this. Then I'm okay, direction doesn't matter. They both are 5 units away from 0, and that's why they're always going to be positive. Noah? Yeah, because then it's asking for the opposite of the absolute value of 5, which would be negative 5. Okay? Tyson? And on the inside? Well, the inside is going to become positive, and then it's the opposite of that, right? Okay, good questions. Okay, now, that leads into a discussion about absolute value equations. If I have the absolute value of x is equal to 7, I want to know, get 7. So there's two answers, 7 and negative 7, because both of them, when I put them in here and take the absolute value of them, I'm going to get 7. Okay, and that's true of most absolute value equations. They're going to have two answers. Everybody write that down. Most absolute value equations will have two answers. The reason I tell you this and emphasize this is because it always never fails on a test. When I'm giving a test on absolute value equations or a quiz, what most students do is they remember the one equation, even after I've gone over it and over it with them, that it has two answers. So I would probably write that on your 3x5. Okay, that it has two answers. All right, here's another one right here. The absolute value of x plus 6 equals 10. Plus or minus a negative 4? It could be positive 4, because 4 plus 6 is 10, and the absolute value of 10 is 10. Negative 16 is the other answer, because negative 16 plus 6 is a negative 10. Take the absolute value of it, and you get 10. Here's how you can do it, because when it gets more difficult, you'll want to set up an equation. I can write two equations. When is x plus 6 equal to 10? And when is x plus 6 equal to negative 10? Okay, all I do is I set up both equations. The first one, I just drop the absolute value signs. The second one, I drop the absolute value signs and make that negative. Okay, so I solve each one of these. I minus 6 from both sides. I get x equals 4. Minus 6 from both sides of this one. And I get x equals negative 16. And those are my two answers. I can check them back up there, which we already did, to see if they work inside an absolute value equation, right? Can you handle that? Now, what if I have something like this? up your two equations and solve them. What are your two equations going to be? And then solve them. Logan, what equations are going to be? No, what's my two equations going to be? What are the two equations I'm going to write to solve this?
You can write 3x plus 7 equals 28.
And equals negative 28. JD, did you have another question, or are you going to answer that? Okay, that's the two correct equations. All you have to do is drop the absolute value signs, make one of them positive and one of them negative on the right side. Okay, so I'm minus 7. What? 7 is one answer, right? The other answer? Divide by 3, and I get x equals, how many thirds? So negative 11 and 2/3. That's my other answer. Okay? Question? Okay, here we go. Next one. You guys don't have the answer yet? JD, what'd you say? It's not possible. Okay? We wouldn't say undefined, but it's not possible. Think about this, guys. Everything over here is an absolute value sign. Is there anything you can put in for x, add 5, take the absolute value of it, and get a negative number? Unless there was a negative, but there's not, right? Everything's inside the absolute value, and once you take the absolute value of it, you're going to get a positive number. There's no way you're going to ever end up with negative 2. So the answer to it is, well, the answer to it is no solution, is what we should say. Okay? No. Anytime everything is absolute value and this is a negative number, it's no solution. Okay, you ready for the next one? I'm not going to say negative 11. I'm going to say okay. Solve that one. There's a common error that students make on this kind of a problem. Do you want me to tell you what the common error is in case you made it? Here's the common error. Some students do 2 minus 3. Can you do that? Can't do that. Why? Order of operations says you got to times that 3 by that first, which we can't do that yet because it's in the absolute value. So instead of going 2 minus 3 first, what you going to do first? No, because you can't distribute yet because that's absolute. No, you're going to get the absolute value part by itself. So how am I going to do that? After you do what? You got to do something else first. You got a minus 2 first. Okay. So we got a minus 2 from both sides first. I'm going to get negative 3 times the absolute value of 2x plus 4 equals negative 15. If I went 2 minus 3 first, that's not following order of operation. I'd get the wrong answer. Okay. Now, I still don't have the absolute value by itself. So what do? Divide by negative 3. That's the second thing you do. And you get the absolute value of 2x plus 4 equals a positive 5. Is that possible? That is possible. Everybody write this down in your notes. Isolate the absolute value before you make your two equations. Isolate the absolute value before you make your two equations. Isolate the absolute value before you make your two equations. What are my two equations? And equals negative 5. What did you get for your two answers? Yeah. Negative 9 halves or negative 4 and 1 half. Okay? Or negative 4.5. Okay, that's what you get when you solve those. Okay? We think we understand? Got it? Okay, that's the end of this right here. I'm going to give you the homework assignment for this one, and then we will come back and do. Okay, going to learn how to solve compound inequalities. And write them in interval notation. Two important things. Now, in English, you all learned sentence have in it. It has what? They have, let me get you another pencil. Sorry. It works, don't sharpen it. Okay. Okay, yes. Okay, you guys, what two words do we usually have in compound sentences that you guys learned in English? And is one? And or. Okay, we're not going to use but in here. And or are the two we're going to use. Okay. We are going to write two inequalities that have an and or an or in them. Okay. So the first one we're going to start off with. This one right here. M minus 2 is less than negative 8 or M divided by 8 is greater than 1. Now, if I am going to solve this right here, what would I do to, I'm going to solve each one at the same time. Which one am what am I going to do to this one?
Add 2 both sides.
Okay, I'm going to add 2 to both sides. I end up with what? M is less than negative 6. Or, over here, what am I going to do to both sides of this? Multiply by 8. And those cancel out. And what am I going to end up with? M is greater than 8. And inequalities has to be true. Only one of the inequalities has to be true for the compound inequality to be true. Only one of the inequalities has to be true for the compound inequality to be true. So for example, when I draw a picture of this, which we if I write my number line right here, M is less than negative 6. What am I going to do to graph that? Draw a circle at negative 6. Is it solid or hollow? Why? Because there's no equal sign. Okay, and which way is less than negative 6? Okay, to the left. I color that in. Over here, m is greater than 8. At 8. And which way do I go? M is greater than 8. Now, is greater between the because you use a bracket when there's an equal sign underneath it.
That's when you use the bracket.
Yes.
If it's greater than or equal to or less than or equal to.
Yes.
So if there's one that was n equal to and one that was didn't have the line right there, then only do one.
Yes. I'll show you one like that in just a second. Okay, so what would this interval be, you guys? Right? What I mean by this looks like a point, looks like a point you're supposed to graph, whereas it's really saying from -10 to +8. It's an interval, and it will tell you when it's an interval. You'll designate the interval. Okay, any questions on that? Okay, I'm going to do one more problem that will kind of show you what you guys are asking about. I'm going to do this one right here. -10b plus 3 is less than or equal to -37, or 3b minus 10 is less than or equal to -25. Now, is this an example of an and or statement? Or, okay? And so on this one right here, what would I do to solve this one? I would -3. What would I get? -40. Then what would I do? Divide by -10. What do I get? Okay, Jenny, why is it greater than or equal to 4? Yeah, anytime you divide or multiply both sides of an inequality by a negative number, what happens to the inequality sign? Everybody write that down. Okay? Anytime you multiply or divide by a negative number, switch the inequality sign. When you multiply or divide by a negative number, switch the inequality sign. Okay? All right. You know, so I would test or quiz, but then it will help you out. Yes, Cole. No. That was enough of that nightmare for me. So next year you will probably have to, but not this year. I might. No. Okay, this one. Add 10 to both sides. Divide by 3, and we get b is less than or equal to -5. So when I graph this, it's got 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Is it going to be hollow or solid? Solid, right? Why? Greater than 4 is which way? Then b is less than or equal to -5, solid or hollow? Then what do I do? Less than or equal to -5. Write intervals for this. -infinity, comma, -5. What goes around them? Brackets on both ends? Parenthesis, anytime it's infinity or negative infinity. Bracket on this side, why? Because it equals. Anytime that's solid and equals, it's that. Okay, or over here, what's this one? Infinity. Bracket. And state. doesn't say it doesn't say it stops at -5. It just starts at -5. No, it starts at -5 and goes to -infinity. Yes, Noah. How do you know it's true or not? Well, any place that we colored in right here is true. Okay? So if someone gave you a number, 10, is that true or not? 0. -8. Okay, so if someone gave you a number, any number that falls in the shaded area is going to make it true. No. We want to know what we're doing is we're finding solutions. We want to know what numbers would work. Well, this is saying any number from -5 to -infinity would work, and any number from 4 to infinity would work. -7 is less than or equal to -5. That's not an inequality equation. You could do something like this.
I know, but I was plugging it in for to make it see if it was true.
What does that mean? What does this mean?
It's
It's an and statement. What's the interval? -7 to 2. That's the interval, right? It's saying any number between -7 and 2, including -7. Okay? No, you don't have to. Hey, back here on this one, right here, I told you because JD brought up the fact, can you solve this like that without having to write two inequalities? Yeah, let me show you that. -1 is less than n plus 9 is less than 17. Is that what it said? What you can do is you minus 9 from the middle, because you want to get n by itself, right? And if you do it from the middle, you got to do it from both sides. And if you do that, you get -10 is less than n is less than 17. That's a little bit faster and quicker, isn't it? Sorry. And there you go. That's a lot faster, right? Okay, I'm going to give you your second assignment.